What is going on, guys? My name is Demetri, and welcome to the Rise Productive Podcast. In today's episode, we have a personal finance YouTuber who is growing really fast. I'm really excited to get into this episode of the Rise Productive Podcast with KimmyG. How are you doing?
Hi, Demetri. Thanks for having me. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. We were just talking about this before I recorded. I usually do these in the morning or in like the middle of the day, but you know what? Friday nights do not mean anything anymore.
Yes.
It's weird. So to get us started, I want to hear a little bit about your background, and I'm sure everyone else does as well.
Yeah, sure. So let me go over a little bit about my background, my upbringing, and my experiences. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, so I've been a West Philly girl my entire life, even through college. However, even though I'm a huge Philly gal, I like to travel a lot. So every single vacation I have, travel is a huge component of it. I basically seek every single international travel experience possible. Since my entire life and my career is based in Philly, that's kind of like my version of an escape. So I went to college at Drexel University where I studied business, and it's right next door to UPenn. So we're literally a block away from each other. What's interesting about Drexel is that I've never had a single summer break. So with Drexel's quarter system, I would spend half the year doing school and then the second half of the year doing a 6-month internship. And I guess during my college years, I worked and pivoted my business concentrations like so many times. I would work at 4 different Fortune 500 companies, like ranging from supply chain, tech auditing, finance, software, and then sales. So after I graduated, I was able to land my dream job working in consulting within Big Four. And now that we're quarantined and working at home, I decided to use some free time and kind of work on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's quite the quality start to being done with school. I don't have any experience with, I had summers for like the first 2 years of in college. So I feel like that's just a little stressful. You had to hit the real life button a little bit quicker than maybe the rest of us did.
Yeah, but it makes you appreciate those tiny breaks you have just a little bit more.
Yeah, I bet now with everything going on with the old 9 to 5 happening, you're working at home, right, during everything? Yeah. Yeah, that's a grind. I know there's not as much, I don't know, travel time that you have to deal with, but it's probably still just as annoying as the normal.
Yeah, it is what it is.
But
Lucky to have work though, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I was actually just reading something recently about, did you know that there's been a huge uptick in productivity in like tech companies and companies that mainly have office settings?
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's either uptick in work productivity, or people are starting to overwork or work more hours than they used to when they were in the office.
That's weird. I thought it was going to be the opposite, only because it was like you can't disconnect between work and life at that point when you're having to do it at home. So I thought people would be lax at home, but I guess the opposite happened.
I just feel like the laptop is always available to you. So if you have nothing better to do, then why not, catch up with work stuff, right? So I think that's the mentality.
Yeah, if they know that they can do it in any part of the day, I'm sure that they just have more hours that they're able to do it now, too. Like when you have more time to do it, maybe you just put the time towards it. I guess I wouldn't think that'd be the case for me, but then again, I don't stop working on stuff that I'm doing. So that's actually kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Like you said, you started your YouTube channel during quarantine. It started about a month ago.
Yes.
And you have grown to, by the time we're recording this, I think it's like 750-ish.
762 as of 3 minutes ago, probably.
Yeah. Are you doing the old constantly checking the YouTube studio on your phone? Because I have that habit. It's a bad habit.
I had that habit when I was beginning, but I do think it's just a lot better. It alleviates so much stress when you don't check as often. I think when you're first starting out, you're really excited about it, but you learn to, kind of put the phone down and just check whenever, you want to respond to comments and things like that.
Yeah, I got to turn off notifications for the YouTube app. I actually still have those on only because I like to see the important people that I like. That when like Matt Diavella drops a video or somebody that I'm really wanting to follow,
Yeah.
I do want to watch it when the notification bell comes out. But I haven't turned off comments or replies in notifications, which is dumb because I get a lot of those.
You get a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, not worth it. But I don't know why. I've been reading about or not reading, listening to people talk about digital minimalism. I don't know if you've heard of what's the name of the guy who wrote Digital Minimalism? Cal Newport.
Oh, what's the concept behind it?
Basically, we need to rethink the entirety of how we treat the different things in our life, like our phone, and the way that we go about having different apps there. We got to get rid of pretty much everything notification wise, except for phone calls and texts, because all these little minor productivity hacks we're doing, like they're good, but they're just like not going to ever equate to the same thing as just fixing all the negative things that we let in.
That makes sense. I mean, it's always a distraction, to have that on your phone. It becomes an obsession and you're habitually checking on things without even noticing that you're doing it sometimes. So
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that too. It's hard because I think when you're starting out, you are excited. I'm still excited about everything, so that's why I kind of check it too much. But I gotta stop caring, because the more I have stopped caring about it, the more that people seem to be watching the videos. Maybe I heard something from the first guest I had on, Keaton Walker, who talked about there's something to be said about when you disconnect yourself from wanting certain things, for some reason they come to you even more. I don't know how or why, but that happens sometimes.
Your perception too. Like the more often you check, the gradual gains seem less, of an impact. However, when you check, a little afterward, those gains might seem a lot more emphasized, more important,
Yeah, when you see a couple hundred more or like 50 more views than when you check and it's 2 more and you're like, oh, what? But it was like
Yeah,
30 seconds that passed, so it doesn't yeah. Anyways, leading into what you do for your content creation, I'm curious to hear about why you got started. Everyone always has a fun story regarding that.
Yeah, sure. So the main reason why I started my YouTube channel was because I really wanted to build a community about personal finance. What's interesting about growing up during our generation, I would say in particular, is that no one really either knows or cares too much about the topics surrounded finances or like building wealth. So I think the culture nowadays is very much focused on like, living in the moment, gaining memories and good experiences, rather than preparing for long-term financial security. So because I never had those close friends who cared about personal finance as much as I do, I really wanted to share all of my thoughts, and I really needed a creative outlet to kind of express it all. And I thought, YouTube is kind of the perfect place to do that. So while I'm on my journey of learning more about building wealth, financial security, and building my financial future, I can share not only my experiences and all the research I'm doing, but also, gaining tips from other YouTubers who care about the same things. So that's kind of why I got started with my YouTube journey.
Interesting. That definitely is the case, though, for like people not knowing or caring about personal finance. I have heard the statement like, we only live so long, and a lot of these things from a lot of people, not even just my age, but even above us. But like, I don't know, maybe I'm just not wired like that. I definitely want to have fun, don't get me wrong, but I'm just thinking in the back of my head, like the what ifs way too heavy on me. And maybe they don't weigh as heavy on other people, or this is my thought, maybe they weigh as heavy, they just are more willing to deal with the consequences. Because I know there's like this whole college debt thing people are racking up now, and they claim to just not be that stressed about it, or they claim to not be stressed about all these different things. But then you have people like, it seems like now I'm hearing more people are like depressed, or they're not feeling great than in previous times. It could just be more, I don't know, it could be more on the news, or it could be talked about more. So maybe it's not more. But from what I've noticed, it seems people generally seem to be more stressed.
Yeah, but it's also become such a normalized thing to accumulate debt, be broke, it's like a trend almost. People are like, okay, I can afford things. I got $0 in my bank account, happens to everyone.
So stressful. I don't see how it's like, yes, if that's trendy, man, that's not good. It's good for the companies, because they don't want us to have anything. They want us to like spend what we have and that's it. That's good for them. But like, I don't know. I don't think for anyone's sanity that's good. For me, I know I was watching a lot of personal finance YouTubers before I made any videos, but I'm curious how you've changed your outlook on YouTube and watching YouTube videos since you started making them, because mine has changed a little bit too.
Yeah, so what's interesting is I was never quite interested in the whole finance YouTube community before I even started making finance related videos. So all the popular gurus out there like Graham Stephan, etc., like similar folks like that, I missed their rise to fame because as they were, peaking on YouTube, I wasn't there to watch their content. So as I'm catching up on things now and like jumping on the bandwagon of like YouTube finance, everything seems extremely trendy and like clickbaity. So while it's really great for entertainment purposes, my interests are a little bit different because I'm trying to add more educational value now, which is what I'm trying to bring back into the YouTube sphere as opposed to the content that's being absorbed right now. But that's just my outlook on it. I'm curious to see what yours is.
Yeah, definitely. The thing is, when Graham Stephan started making videos, he definitely was a little more. I feel like he was a little more in the realm of trying to help people out, and maybe he is still. And he posted about the fact that he got called out for all this clickbait that he's been making recently, but
Oh,
he put it on a community post, so he didn't make a video
oh
on it.
okay.
And he should have made a video on it, and he admitted that he should have in a response to a comment. Like the top comment said, "You should have made a video on this." And he's like, "Yeah, I should," but then he never made a video on it, which I was like,
Like
but
that would grab a lot of views probably if you need a video on it.
yeah, but I feel like he knew that his stands were gonna read the community post, and that's what mattered. I'm not sure because those don't get obviously as much views or whatever
Yeah.
as normal videos. And he admitted like, I'm trying to do my best to his cop out was I'm reaching a wider audience by having it worded this way rather than wording it in the sense of 6 ways in order to accrue wealth by the
Mhm.
so I heard that and I was like, yeah, I know you need to not clickbait, but you need to use your titles in certain ways. But he just didn't acknowledge the fact that he was bringing up stuff about like stock market crashes and thumbnails or the big problem with Robinhood. I think he made a video on, and then he just didn't bring it up. Like it was really weird. There was some videos where the title and thumbnail just didn't really have much to do with the content of the videos. And I think the personal finance space is, I'm hoping it doesn't do this, but it started to become the weird trendy like how there's Shopify
Mhm.
thing a year and a half 2 years ago, and there was the digital marketing guru thing, and then there was, and now I feel like there's some of it is being a day trader. Well, that's actually a big one right now, but
Yeah, live day trading, watch me day trade.
oh my god, that people don't understand that's just not going to work. It
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. Like they don't understand like the taxes that happen when you day trade. Because you have
They
to,
don't-
they beat, what do you have to beat you have to beat the market by how much, do you know, in order to beat the taxes out?
I don't do day trading. I think it's like on the lines of gambling. So I kind of just like long-term investing. That's the type of person I am. So
Yeah, me too. I think it's something like you have to beat the market by 50% or something stupid.
wow.
The number is more than is what I think is okay. And you're right, it's basically gambling. But that's another trend. And then people are coming out with videos recently on invest in these stocks because they're going up currently, and I don't have a problem with that necessarily, but there's more like trends of do only this thing, put all your money only in this thing. People aren't pitching the concept of maybe what you're trying to do, more of like live your life in a more frugal way. I think Nate O'Brien's doing a good job of that. um,
Yeah,
like his content's pretty tasteful.
it is. It's like moderate, realistic, practical things that you can actually implement and see results from, not a get rich fast type of scheme.
Yeah, I think it's even funny. They're not doing get rich quick. They're doing get rich mildly quick, and they're trying to act like
Yeah.
it's not the same thing as before. I'm like, there's no key to success that's outside of just like hard work and then like being mildly frugal. Like I don't really.
Exactly. I mean, you do have to build it up over time. It's not going to happen within the next 24 hours because you watched a YouTube video that told you it was going to, right?
Exactly. And if you end up getting lucky like that, you are not probably making videos on it, or you're not preaching about like, oh, well, became TikTok famous, and this is how you can become. What's the name of that girl that's like 15 that's TikTok famous?
Addison Ray,
Yeah,
something.
probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like she's not out here saying this is how you get TikTok famous in one night because she just got lucky or whatever. Like I mean, they don't do that because those kind of people don't have time for that anymore because they're actually in a good spot.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I have been pretty freaked out by TikTok though since what happened. I was I was not on TikTok in general, but
Hmm.
with the whole information about, maybe, or with everyone's information possibly going to
Exactly.
another government is kind of freaking me out because I'm like, I know
I
a
mean,
lot
it,
of,
it might be banned, so
yeah, dude, what do you think about that? Do you think it's okay for them to ban a social media platform in general?
I mean, realistically, what's going to happen, even if they ban it, is that the next version of it will come out and it'll just be a replicate of it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, because was it
this is pretty
musically?
similar to Vine.
Wasn't it? It was, yeah. It was similar to Vine and Musically, or is TikTok what Musically was or is now? Wait, English. Yeah, I don't know who owned TikTok. Twitter? It's not, sorry, not TikTok. Vine before they got rid of it
I'm not sure.
because they got rid of it for what I thought was no reason.
It
They're
was pretty
seeing,
fast.
yeah, they were like, Vine's done. I'm like, but everyone loves Vine.
Everyone loves Vine.
It was do it for the Vine. That was a saying for like 2 years, and then they just killed it. Just killed it
Yeah, but
way
now
too quick.
TikTok is a thing, and it's the exact same thing, but it's just really popular now. Everyone's using social media, so very successful.
It's very short term fame driven too. Because I have seen people who aren't TikTok famous say, "This is how I went viral on TikTok." Like they make a YouTube video on it to get some views.
Yeah, well, the algorithm is not the same as the way YouTube works. Like you're even if you have zero followers, your video or TikTok can still be seen by a mass audience just based on the hashtags you're using, people scrolling through. Like you're more easily visible on TikTok's platform than on any other platform out there.
Huh? Yeah, I'm literally clueless when it comes to it. Besides the fact that you scroll through and see bad memes, essentially, that's what I'm gonna call it. Bad memes for hours. Because I have a buddy who I was living with last year in my apartment, and he was always scrolling through TikTok, and I'm like, what have you been doing for the past 30 minutes? Because I keep hearing like these 3-second bits of music, and then it's done. I'm like, are you on
That's the same
TikTok?
song too.
Oh yeah, that's the worst. Remember the box by Roddy Ricch?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when that was the song?
Yeah, it
Oh
was.
my god, they killed that. The TikTok killed that song.
I know.
That's good.
I mean, it's very addicting though. It's like you're only spending 30 seconds on a video and you think that it's nothing, but then 3 hours pass by because you're just scrolling through hundreds of TikToks.
Yeah,
So,
can't do it. Can't happen. I think if I were to make TikToks, it would. Well, we were talking about this beforehand. Aren't the people trying to make like Shopify drop shipping TikToks again, or they're trying
yeah.
to bring back Shopify and drop shipping through TikTok?
Yeah, so things that are trending on TikTok now are like help videos or hack videos, and a lot of people are kind of like, this is how I made $500,000 in a year through drop shipping or affiliate marketing, things like that. Just quick 60-second bits teaching you how to do small tricks with it. And people will just see it, it's an attention grabber, so they'll automatically follow you because they think, oh, I'm gonna learn more tricks on how to make hundreds of dollars a year over this easy, online trick of affiliate marketing or something. So
Yeah, I think it's funny when people try to pitch affiliate marketing as a concept that they could like sell a course on or something because it's so basic. It's just like you have an audience and then you show the audience something that they might want to buy after you give them a bunch of free value. I'm like, why do you think that people need to buy a $400 course on how to affiliate market?
it's not easy and it's not for everyone. So, but that's how they cater. That's how they make it sound like anyone can do it. Anyone can make hundreds of dollars doing this, and that's why it's so trendy now.
Yeah, because you got to think about it like this: if somebody were to try to do affiliate marketing, they had absolutely no platform, nothing's
Mm-hmm.
going to work. But on top of that, you need to have the personality to work on either YouTube or a
Yeah,
blog, and you need to have like consistent work ethic in any sort of field, whether it even be Instagram. Growing on Instagram is not easy either. Whatever of those 3 social media platforms it is, even Pinterest, like all of those main ones that have big search engines or algorithms that make sense, that's kind of hard to grow on.
yeah,
You're never going to be able to become affiliate marketer if you have no audience to market to because your personality doesn't fit making it big on the internet.
exactly. You're essentially building from the ground up, and there's so much to study on algorithm, SEO, hashtags, all these things that go into it to gradually build an audience and gradually build your success. It's not going to happen within just a month.
Yeah, and I think a good segue would be talking about how this 9 to 5 thing is just getting like, I mean, people, the stigma against the 9 to 5 is no bueno.
Yeah. No, like it's a huge trend nowadays that's becoming increasingly popular. Everyone wants to ditch the 9 to 5, and that the 9 to 5 is something to stray away from. But I think that's just overly dramatized and exaggerated and almost a little harsh, because there are just so many benefits to a 9 to 5 job that isn't quite talked about. Everyone wants to become rich overnight nowadays, create their own startup, and they just think it's super easy. But I feel like no one appreciates the hustle and like the benefits that come with having a true work experience in either the outside or just the corporate world itself.
Yeah, like when you're working in what you call now as your dream job, I'm guessing you're, well, it's your dream job, so I hope it doesn't suck. But I'm guessing you have like a lot of these benefits and perks that, I mean, the average person wouldn't have. And an entrepreneur in general doesn't get most of the 9 to 5 benefits.
Yeah, exactly. Like so much of it isn't talked about. Like when you're working at a 9 to 5 job, or like right off the bat, it's essentially a way to really build up your experiences. You're gaining knowledge, you're contributing to something bigger, and you're getting insight into like how a specific business works. Not to mention when you're working in that type of environment, you have like mentorship that's readily available to you, that's not going to be provided to you in the real world when you're starting on your own as an entrepreneur. Not many people would just want to sit down with you for no reason and openly give you advice when their time is worth more money than giving out a free tip or something. So it's quite common in the corporate world that someone will sit down with you, assist you, give you feedback, and just share their similar experiences that they could help you build your career on. So that's just not talked about as often.
Yeah, no, and there was a video made by, do you know who Thomas Frank is?
No, tell me about it.
Okay, so he is a productivity YouTuber. He's got a blog called the College Info Geek blog. He's got a podcast. He basically started during college doing all those three things, and essentially, now he has multiple millions of subscribers. He's been making full-time money off his blog since he was, like 25? So he did really well for himself, but he made a video saying, like, 10 things I wish I knew, when I was, I think he said 20 or 22, something like that, whatever age he decided to say. That's when he was starting doing this whole thing, because it's been 10 years. So I think he's 30 or 32. And he was like, there's a couple different ways to look at entrepreneurship as a good and a bad thing. Like, one, you don't have structure when you're an entrepreneur and you're the boss. And that's like a negative thing. He was talking about some of the friends he had when he was in college or going into college, and they were complaining about writing college essays to try to get into college. And conceptually, he couldn't wrap his head around why that was so frustrating to them, but they were signing up for 4 years of having to do what they were told and like do a lot of work. He was like, wait, you're signing up for a bunch of work. Why is the essay the hard part? But then he realized people like structure. People like the fact that 4 years in a row, you're going to be told exactly what to do. If you have a major, you're going to literally do what's set out, because it has a specific curriculum with some very little changes in like electives and stuff like that. So people like structure, even though they don't tend to admit it.
Yeah, it gives you a way to live, and it kind of alleviates a lot of stress for you. You're able to know exactly what to do next, and I think that gives people a lot of relief.
Yeah, like when I started time blocking, I noticed that it went a step further from like I was told what to do at school. It was like, okay, now I know exactly when I'm doing that thing. So my stress went down in that regard, because I wasn't stressed about when I was doing it. So I knew what I was doing, why I was doing it, when I'm doing it. So that was the 3-step thing. Now, when you find a really fulfilling 9 to 5 job, that's pretty much what you have. If you're very scheduled and regimented in your work, you're probably going to be relatively stress-free. From what I've noticed, people who are happy.
Yeah, I mean, you're happy within your 9 to 5, you're satisfied, your financial well-being is okay, it's taken care of, and then your after work hours are going to be even better now that you feel like you have a purpose during the day, and now your after work hours, you can actually feel like you can relax and reward yourself with that downtime.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about, there's this new work-life balance trend that companies are trying to go along with, because our generation, to be frank, is a little less willing to deal with workplaces that aren't great.
Yeah.
We're just gonna probably jump ship more often, and they're realizing that, and they don't want every single person that works at their jobs or at their companies to just jump ship. So companies are trying to have a better work-life balance thing. They're implementing more get-togethers and stuff like that to make bonds at the workplace, but also having Friday half days, Friday half online, Friday work from home. And these parts of the 9 to 5 are not generally talked about as much, but when you have a trend in the corporate world moving towards that, it's kind of weird that at the same time everyone's like, I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone just likes the idea of being entrepreneur, being rich, all these things. But there's a lot to be said and a lot to appreciate about the 9 to 5. Like there are so many perks that are given to you automatically when you enter that type of world. So, I mean, it's a great starting point. And even if your ultimate goal might be to be your own boss and create your own hours one day, having a 9 to 5 initially is a really realistic approach to doing something that's giving you a foundation. And then maybe from there, you can create a side hustle while also providing yourself a safety net to proceed with whatever your bigger long term goals and dreams are.
Yeah, because like, hear me out, guys. Crazy idea. But you can do your full-time job. You can have a side hustle on the side. That's why it's called a side hustle. And then go further with that over time. And eventually, if that somehow gets built up to your income, you then reach the point where you have to go, all right, I'm going to burn out if I keep doing this thing more and the other one more, and my job's going to suffer and my life's going to suffer. And then if you really think that's the better thing to do, you can drop the job because you have the safety net. You made the right decisions. You didn't just feel like I'm going to go into Shopify dropshipping and not have a job.
Exactly. And like with entrepreneurship, it's not talked about often because we all want to romanticize the idea of you can do anything as long as you put your mind to it. But in reality, there's a crazy statistic that like 90% of business ideas end up failing because of one reason or another. So your risk tolerance has to be really good and you have to provide yourself a safety net before, going all in on anything that's entrepreneurial.
Yeah, because you got to think of it conceptually. A 9 to 5 is just somebody else's business that you're kind of mooching off of.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you can just keep doing that and having a bunch of money put to the side if you do the right things with your finances, which sadly is probably why most people don't end up getting to do whatever side hustles they feel like or whatever side hustles would end up turning into a business because they can't ever reinvest the proper money that sometimes it takes. I don't know if you've thought about that before, but like if 80% of the country spends as much as they make, where does that then leave them excess income to invest into actual business ventures, into some actual marketing?
Yeah, the upfront investment is a lot to risk as well. Do you really want to potentially throw away your, entire lifetime of savings to achieve this potential dream?
Yeah, it's very risky. And I was actually thinking about this because I think the video will have came out by now. I make videos far ahead, so sometimes I'm not sure, but I think I got the calendar in my head. I think this comes out a week after what I'm talking about. But we were talking about dividend investing and how that's becoming this weird trend online. Not a huge fan of the concept of throwing all your money into one type of thing in your portfolio and then pretending you're going to be Warren Buffett.
That is very difficult. Like you have to think about how much you have to have in your portfolio to be able to live off of those dividends, like on average, you have to have about $2.5 million if you were to have like a 4% yield. That'd be $100,000 a year, to say the least. So how are you going to live off of these dividend yields if you consistently have to build up that portfolio in the first place?
Yeah, and like we've been talking about with personal finance practices in general, this concept's being pitched without the backbone of saving an excessive amount of your income. Because if I will give Graham Stephan one like really solid nod, it's that he's ridiculous with how much of his income he saves or how much he makes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if everyone lived like Graham Stephan and saved 95% of their income, I think that could happen for people. But you got to remember, like, how much does someone make in a year, right?
The average income is not going to be enough,
Yeah, to reach $2.5 million, that would take that would take longer than it would take to retire, or about around the same amount of time. So like you need to make an excess amount of money. And it's like, well, if you put all of it into the dividends, I'm like, well, it's possible that you could manage to do that and maybe retire like 10 years early. I don't know. But generally speaking, it's not gonna happen like that.
Not if you want to be able to cover your actual living costs. Other things come into play with the average salary. So, I mean, it could be done, but at the same time, it's kind of far-fetched if you think about it.
Yeah, and another thing that gets pitched about this, which is interesting, is I don't see any of these people who pitch this have a wife or kids or a husband or like any of that. You ever notice that? Like, it's just, I mean, Graham Stephan has a girlfriend now, but he's been living in a free house for how many years because he's in real estate?
Yeah. I mean, they're not spending on things that would actually bring the average person enjoyment, like, going traveling, seeing the world, doing other things other than their job and other side hustles. Because, like, yeah, they're making a lot of money from like doing YouTube, doing social media, doing this, doing that. But like actual people in the actual world, I think the average person really does want to experience more than just hustling all day for a huge salary, right?
Yeah, exactly. I know Nate O'Brien made that video about he's retiring at 24, which
Yeah.
was weird. That was just weird. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, all right, dude, what are you gonna do? He's from Philadelphia too, which is funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but 24 years old, I could not imagine theoretically retiring 41 years before a lot of
Ahead
people
of
do.
You
Like,
have more than another half of your life to go, which is pretty crazy. And like it's just around the idea of like fire, like financial freedom, financial independence and retiring early essentially. It's like another huge trend. Everyone wants to retire early nowadays, and everyone loves the idea because it sounds so great to, have all this free time and never have to work again. It's another trend.
it is another trend, but I think there's something to be said about retiring like mildly early. That's probably not bad. Like
Yeah,
having
yeah.
having very good financial advice given to you and then you following the advice. Then say you retire at 55 instead of 65. You could have a
Yeah.
solid 10 years of really enjoying life more than other people. But
Yeah.
instead, it's getting pitched that you can do this in your 30s by people who are making ridiculous amounts of money by putting out YouTube videos that then will make them money forever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not forever. I don't know how long the algorithm will push some of
For
them.
a while, yeah.
But for a while, they're going to keep making ad revenue. They'll keep making different money if they just make more videos off of sponsors or Patreon or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just crazy that I'm just thinking about the kids because I actually hadn't put two and two together in my own head about this. But like, Graham Stephan probably hasn't factored in the fact that a kid costs how much it does for
Yeah.
other people. Like, kids are expensive.
They're expensive. They're going to demand things. They might want a better education. Just so many things that come into play when you're having kids, expanding your family.
Because
Then you have to think about where the kids want to go to school. Do you have to relocate to a better location that fits that? Like,
do you want them to go to a good high school, which then could lead them to go to college? Do you want to pay for their college?
mm-hmm.
Because I know a lot of parents are nice enough to have wanted to save up beforehand, and obviously there's this crazy inflation that happened with college tuition in the past 20 years, just absolutely astronomical. But this generation is more aware of the fact that the next generation might have to deal with something similar. So I don't know, like, does fire account for? I think fire just literally does not account for having kids or paying for their college or
Yeah,
for
I
anything.
mean, the idea of fire is that you're basically minimizing all costs possible so that you're able to retire as early as possible. Like you're cutting down all of your costs essentially to go into your savings and build enough wealth so that you're set for the next, 40 years or so that you're not going to be able to work anymore. So,
And you're familiar with the 4% rule more than I am. What would $2.5 million with the
it's
4% rule? It's how much is it a year? Would you be able to live off of?
100,000.
See, that's not crazy bad, but it's also not crazy good either. Because like with the kids thing again, like with the
Yeah.
kids thing again, though, like I don't know if you're going to be able to manage that over a long period of time.
With fire, you're just not counting. I mean, what's not talked about a lot is, the fear behind fire and all these things you have to factor in. For example, the budgeting and the calculations for whether or not you have enough money to live off for the next half of your life has to be very, very precise. You can't make any mistakes in that. And you also have to think about, if you're keeping all of your wealth within the stock market to, live off of dividend growth or, investment yield, what happens if the stock market crashes? You have to have an emergency fund to live off of a good 2 to 3 years in case of a crash or something. You have to think about healthcare and insurance and finding a good provider, especially if you have kids and a big family. That's expensive, especially in the USA, of course. And then where are you going to live to sustain this lifestyle? Different places have different costs. Living in Hawaii is going to be a lot different than living in Iowa, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I think it's weird too because I didn't actually think about the healthcare perspective. But in our country, if something happens to someone in your family, that that can really drain your bank account if you don't have insurance. And obviously, insurance is expensive if you don't have a healthcare provider from work.
Yeah, precisely. And even if you do have health insurance, you still might have to pay out of pocket, and it's not going to be cheap. So,
Yeah, there was a situation where I got to cooking with my girlfriend, and I had a little bit of a knife slip, and went to the ER, and the thing cost like, I mean, they literally just put some sort of glue-ish thing on there and put a Band-Aid, and like it was like $400 or something stupid.
exactly.
I'm like,
You
what?
charge just for visiting the hospital, right? So,
I'm like, just because the local clinic wasn't open, I just got charged $400. Like, thanks.
hmm
Great.
that's how expensive America is. So, got to keep that in mind when you're thinking about a fire. Your emergency fund not only has to cover those costs. I mean, there's just so many unexpected costs you don't think about.
And I think the fire thing with dividends, like you were saying, if the stock market does crash or anything like that, it doesn't account for the fact that you generally probably would need multiple streams of uh, passive income. Now, if you're a real estate person and you've been getting real estate off of like 2 to 3 properties, with that's maybe enough diversification. Or if you also have money in different assets that are accruing wealth. I'm trying to think of another example. I mean, just basic other growth stocks or index funds or whatever. But when you talk about a stock market crashing, I mean, think about what just happened in March, right?
Yeah.
You know how many people were freaking out retirement wise?
Yeah, especially people who are approaching retirement. Imagine what they're thinking, what's going on through their heads. Like right as they're about to retire, everything's ruined for a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, and I'm trying to think. There was like a lot of major players that pulled their dividends in March. I don't think there's I think GE did. I think some other examples, but some relatively large stocks. I'm forgetting the word for like a blue chip dividend stock, but I'm aristocratic. Is that the word? Yeah, I think some of them actually pulled their dividends in
So
March.
these companies you think that are so reliable, things can go wrong and you can't expect it all to be well and good after you retire. You got to account for these unexpected occurrences.
And there's something to be said about the social aspect of work.
Exactly. You're going to be lonely. You're not going to be in contact with people on a day-to-day basis as you were before you retired. Like, what are you going to do about the boredom? You have 40 extra hours a day now. How are you going to spend it? And spend it in a way that's frugal enough for you to keep up with this fire, lifestyle.
Yeah, think about all your people who you grew up with, went to college with, maybe, even just people in your family. Like, they got to work those 40 hours a week. You don't. You're just going to be sitting around waiting for them. I guess with our generation, maybe people like me specifically who've loved video games before, maybe they're all right. But like the average person is not. Yeah, every day. Yeah, exactly. Though every day, like I don't even think I could see myself playing. What is that? Like 8 to 10 hours of video games every single day, and waiting for the people who have a real life to come home. Or, I mean, yeah, how would that work? How would that work?
Yeah.
Like if.
Like it sounds great in theory. Like, yes, I would love to video game for a whole day, but that's something to look forward to on like a weekend. But once you're doing fire, are you really going to do that every single day for the rest of your life? It takes the enjoyment out of relaxing and doing those leisure type of activities.
Yeah, and one of those leisure activities that a lot of people like to do is have nice cars, which is interesting. We're talking about this beforehand, but like personally, big not car guy. I've alluded to it on the podcast many times before. Probably mentioned it more than just allude, but like I'm personally going to be the guy who has a used bought car that is just, I don't know, I found it for like $1,000 and I'm just not going to care.
No, I'm the same exact way. I have a RAV4 right now that was gifted to me. Granted, it was a 2007 car and it's got a lot of mileage on it, but in my opinion, cars are pretty plain and simple. Unless you're a car hobbyist or a car collector type of person, buying a brand name car, nonetheless, like a brand spanking new car from the factory, just isn't worth it, because cars depreciate in the value, especially like the moment you take on its first drive, the value is automatically worth less than what you bought it for. So the idea of making constant payments or even taking a loan to afford it is kind of ridiculous. And, you're only using it to get from point A to point B at the end of the day. So who really cares if you have a BMW versus like a Ford, right?
Yeah, I personally think, and I'm sure I heard this somewhere credible, but I'm forgetting where, essentially people only care about their own cars and what their own cars look like. you will get a mild reference from somebody of like, oh, nice car, haha. Like if you have an old car, but I mean, they're not going to think about it for more than like 30 seconds.
Yeah, no one is that invested in your life where they would care to the extent of what your car model, make, and year it is, right?
Yeah, and that's another issue that maybe a lot of people have with like the keeping up with the Joneses mentality.
Yeah,
I definitely think that that's one of the main American dream things that got sold.
yeah.
The white picket fence, the nice car, classic.
I know times are changing. There's Uber now. Okay, it's fine.
I was actually having this conversation a couple of weeks ago with somebody, and maybe it was, I'm not sure if it was on the podcast, but they were talking about how expensive their car was. Yeah, I was with Greg McCall on the podcast I had with him. I was like, think about this theoretically. What if you could just always Uber places if you're like in a city or if you're in a city or in a place where you don't need to travel far? What if you use public transit or Ubered? Say you had a car payment of like $600 a month with insurance. Theoretically, how many Uber trips is it going to take for it to cost more than $600 a month?
Exactly.
It's like, oh, well, groceries are expensive. I've heard that before. Well, now you can get grocery delivery services because you don't have a car payment.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of money to save without buying a new car. So that's just something to consider. I mean, it can be a lot cheaper to just go without a car sometimes, considering we have so many different resources to get from place to place. So,
Yeah, in Chicago, I think the public transit pass for 6 months costs like $125 or something. It's I don't maybe it's more, maybe it's less, maybe it's 240. I'm trying to remember if it's like 240 twice or 120 twice.
right.
But yeah, it's still less than, I think it's less than 1,000 a year. That's just
Yeah,
I mean, but any car is going to run you, even just insurance. And I mean, think about gas, right? I mean,
yeah,
gas is ridiculous. Oh my God, I was working this job last summer at this internship, and I was making good money. I was making like 20 an hour, 30 for overtime. That was awesome. You know what wasn't awesome?
yeah.
Gas cost $3.70 last summer.
Oh my gosh, times have changed because it's cheap now. But what's interesting is the more expensive your car is, the more expensive the gas will be to go into that car.
Yeah,
So
because you don't want to mess the engine up. Yeah, because you don't want to mess the engine up. And I was driving. I would get up at 5 and then work out, and like, or actually there was like place for me to change there and stuff, which was nice, really convenient. Like the work-life balance thing, once again, like they're doing a better job of that. So I was able
yeah,
to work out in the morning and then change there, but while also being close there, because I run and there was a forest preserve there. So then I'd run, go change, and right to work. But like the morning commute was like 45 minutes. It was like 40 miles away. I would just book it with no one on the highway. But on the way back, it was like an hour and a half with traffic. So I'm like 2 hours a day commuting. That's got to be. I mean, once again, as we mentioned at the beginning, I know you're working all the time, but at least you don't have to deal with that, because that is no
yeah.
bueno.
I did have to deal with that for a bit, and I have to say I really hated it because I felt like I was just wasting so much time on the road for no reason. Like that was just so much time wasted. I could be at home, I could be relaxing already, but instead I was sitting in traffic. So
Yeah, that messed up my back. I feel like last summer I had this like wicked back and hip pain the whole time. That was probably just the running, but that plus sitting, no bueno, not
yeah,
a good thing,
mm-hmm.
because you spend the 8 hours in the desk at the office. We did have stand sit desks, which I did not utilize enough because I'm too lazy and have bad posture. But the thing to remember is like when you're at home, you also save a lot of money too.
Exactly.
With the, I don't know. Do you think that people should, or companies should move jobs mainly online if they can?
I think they're definitely going to do that. I think they're realizing how much cost it's saving. And not to mention, I don't think any company wants to be on the news first for like, causing another outbreak of the virus again.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's gonna be that'll be bad. You got a company coming back full time. I'm trying to think. I mean, manual labor jobs and stuff, they have to do that. But
Yeah,
you
the
know,
companies remote is so easy for them now. All they have to do is ensure that each employee has, the proper accesses, but they're no longer going to have a huge building in the middle of like New York City. Think about how much they're saving month to month on that.
completely. I know overhead costs are way lower now. I mean, Microsoft got rid of all their physical locations.
Not to mention, when you have physical locations, a lot of companies want to bring amenities within those locations. So, for example, free lunches, discounted food, or even if I don't know if it's talked about quite often, but if any company has a gym on site, they're supposed to have insurance per employee to cover that.
Oh, see, that makes sense. That's something definitely they should have. I didn't think of that.
So if they were to deduct all of these costs, not just the building, but all of the amenities they're providing, think about how much they're saving.
Yeah, I guess between the company and the person. Now, I did hear this, and I'm curious what you think about this. Do you think then, therefore, since they're saying they're not giving you as much, I don't know. I heard that it's possible they might cut wages mildly or cut benefits in some sort of way.
I think they might end up doing that because they're going to have to be able to standardize it in a way that's realistic to the location you're living. You know, if you're now living in Idaho versus Silicon Valley, there's no reason to justify why they'd be paying you such a high salary anymore, you know, because salary is adjusted to the cost of living in whichever state you're in, you know. Even if it's the same company, if I were working in New York City versus Philadelphia, it's only a 2-hour difference, but these cities have drastically different costs of living. So companies have to account for that.
Yeah, and theoretically, when you don't have to go into the work environment and you don't have to have these different costs incurred regarding your travel, regarding your wardrobe. I mean, wardrobe, like for a business setting, that's actually that's expensive. That stuff doesn't last forever. People get, I mean, suits are just ridiculously expensive. For both sides, both male and female, like the clothing is just ridiculous when you get into like the corporate world too.
Yeah, and just the temptation of being in the city, you want a quick lunch, you're gonna head out to Chipotle versus making your own lunch at home because you're just at your home office, right? So
yeah, or the coworkers do something like that. Or they say, let's go out for lunch, and you're like, but I brought a lunch from home, but then you're like, I want to hang out with my coworker friends.
I don't want to miss out.
Yeah, exactly. I had a couple of situations like that last summer. I know somebody who works at a digital marketing company in Chicago who they give them a $30 a week Grubhub stipend.
That's pretty popular now.
That's hype. That's awesome.
I mean, tech companies offer free lunch, like gourmet lunches in office. So if they're going to offer that, I think they're going to have to compensate by giving you like some sort of Uber Eats credit per week to, you know, maintain that type of perk.
Yeah, you see Uber bought Postmates?
Yeah, I did. That's kind of why I bought stock in it, because I think it could benefit them.
Yeah, that's probably going to go well. I granted, Postmates is that like sort of, I don't know. I feel like it's the more hipster option to what is that? What's the word? Food delivery service? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they offer more services than just food delivery. Like you could ask the Postmates to go to like a Rite Aid or a CVS, like a convenience store for you, essentially, I think.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm not sure. Oh. I haven't used the platform as often as like DoorDash, so. Yeah,
it seems to be a good grab for them, though. I know that it's been really slow, though, for those companies during this crazy time. I have family who worked Uber Eats, and it was just dead. Granted, I am in the suburbs, and the family members also in the suburbs. But I mean, I could see them definitely, because they were doing this weird. It wasn't a weird policy; it was a good policy. Where if you got the beer thing, you would be compensated your average what you'd make in 2 weeks, like from previous data on how you've been working. You would get compensated 2 weeks of that while you recover.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, that's kind of a good move, but also at the same time, this is just a Band-Aid on an issue because people stopped Uber Eat driving in general.
Yeah, it's not sustainable, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that's a good side hustle. That's actually a pretty good side hustle. I feel like Ubering at night, Uber Eatsing at night.
Yeah, I like seeing videos of people who are like, I made $700 by doing Postmates for a week, you know, things like that. Seeing how much you can make during your spare time.
Yeah, there's people I know in Chicago who have done Uber Eats, and DoorDash at the same time, and they actually make bank. Like they make really good money.
I mean, you have to combine all those apps together because you might not have a lot of Uber customers one day, but Lyft might be popping, you know?
Oh, yeah. I hadn't even thought about that. You can do both. But like, I know people who have dropped off food for their Uber Eats deliveries on the way to go pick up somebody to drive an Uber for them. That's
wow.
Yeah, that's some money right there. Yeah, that's That's also right there. But if you manage to do, if you juggle all those things at once, I've heard it's like 25 an hour or something crazy for people who like, for if you're in a city, it actually goes pretty well.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Obviously you have to spend a fair amount on gas, but that's like, it's a solid job.
I mean, if you're in the city, you're only going to go a certain distance back and forth. So,
True. True. But they upcharge. I don't know about you, but in downtown Chicago, they upcharge gas by like 30 cents a gallon.
oh, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, good old city living. Always got to be more expensive, even though sometimes it's not as good. I mean, honestly, sometimes I feel like suburbs are generally better living conditions and they don't cost as much. I don't know. It's kind of
I mean,
weird.
cities are just more alluring. There's people, there's stuff to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about that. But speaking of stuff to do, we had an outline for this. We always had an outline, but I always try to make the topics go how they're supposed to go and whatever. I'm trying to learn how to be a podcaster. So the thing I wanted to talk about towards the beginning, which we didn't get to as much, is, finding a niche right now in YouTube is hard. You ended up starting off with some ideas for what you want to do. I'm curious, or I think that people definitely want to hear more about, you trying to find your niche and how that's been so far.
So niche is a pretty interesting aspect about YouTube because for me, okay, so I guess my backstory, I was always inspired by lifestyle vloggers. I grew up and I still watch lifestyle vloggers who simply share their life, their fashion, their shopping habits, things like that. And for me, I always aspired to be that type of YouTuber. But the thing is, no one is emotionally invested in your life off the bat. So I wanted to bring something tangible and valuable to the table first. So finding a niche in that was really important. So I dabbled in a lot of different aspects I was interested in, such as like fitness, finance, and lifestyle. So they're all on a completely different side of the spectrum when it comes to YouTube content. And for my first couple videos, I dabbled in a little bit of each category, but I just learned after the first 5 videos that it just wasn't realistic to keep on doing this type of, method. And quite frankly, once you develop and build a certain type of audience from one popular video, they're not going to want to stay around to see so many different diverse and varying videos on their subscription feed. It offers them very little value at that point, and it's difficult for them to connect with all these different type of niches. So for example, I had YouTube friends who subscribed to my finance content, but if I post a fitness content the next day, they're not going to relate or care too much about it. So finding a niche has been difficult, but I just dwindled it down to personal finance since it's feasible. I like making videos about it, and I think it can provide a lot of value to a larger audience as opposed to fitness and all those things, because everyone can relate to personal aspect on some level, right? So
yeah, everyone's got money. Hopefully everyone. Yeah. Everyone has the concept of dealing with funds and such. So yeah, that makes sense. I feel like for me, finding it was relatively easy. I like productivity. I like self-development in general. But I remember hearing early on in a YouTube video I was watching about trying to grow in general, there was someone who said, you can make videos about yourself when you start, but people care about the things you have to say more than you when you start. 100%. Like, I've noticed that completely. When the topics are more me-driven versus more... Well, actually, in the very beginning, when the topics were me-driven, it didn't work. When I've had, like, the past month and a half, my watch time's gone up because the audience is the same audience and they'll want to watch more. And when I talk about myself, actually, it's contradictory. But, like, when you first start off and you have no audience, I'd say, like, before you hit 1,000 subs or, like, even almost 1,000, you really don't have a group of people who have been watching you consistently. They don't probably care what you have to say about yourself in general because they don't know you. And that's just normal. Like, if you don't know somebody and they just walk up to you on the street and talk about what they did at work for the day, you're not going to care.
It's not interesting. Like, why would I want to know what you ate in the morning and what you did at night, Like,
exactly. The daily vlogger thing does not work if you don't know the person. I actually remember seeing what was it? It was somebody who was running ads on a Casey Neistat video, right? And people can run YouTube ads explicitly on certain YouTubers if they want. So he ran ads only on Casey Neistat's videos. And he was like talking about how he was doing it. And I was like, I will check out your channel just because you've been on 5 ads in a row and it's kind of annoying. And then I was like, poor kid's got a lot of dead subs because he did this. And then maybe a lot of people ended up not caring about it. But it's just like, you're trying to be Casey Neistat without being Casey Neistat. It doesn't really work.
You got to bring some value to the table. Like,
And there could be though, but he could just be known as the Casey Neistat copycat, which is no bueno.
It's not a sustainable brand.
Yeah, what are you gonna be? You gonna be known as the other guy with really curly hair?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I love Casey Neistat, but that's not a jab at Casey Neistat. His hair is fine. His hair's fine. He doesn't make videos much anymore. I don't know if you followed him back in the day.
No.
You didn't? Not at all.
Guess I'm not on like this popular YouTube bandwagon.
You watch Matt Diavella? I mean, he's good. He's good. It's okay. It's okay. You'll hopefully find whoever it is in the personal finance niche that you like, because there is a fair amount of people that they're not great in the niche, but a lot of them are. I don't want to say that all of them are bad, but like, I don't know if you probably don't, but Steven Gardner is a guy who does really good videos. He was doing extremely tasteful videos on the stimulus check all the time, and now he's making more videos towards real stuff, but he was very just straightforward, informative, and trying to keep people uplifted during the whole situation.
Okay.
Yeah, I can live with that. I can live with that.
Yeah.
I can't really live with I couldn't really live with a lot of the people who were taking advantage of the timing.
Yeah, trying to hop on the trend so they could get like more views, right?
Exactly. I don't know if you've thought about making a stimulus check update video.
I mean, I could, but there are already thousands of them out there, and I don't know. Could I really make it that much more different than all the hundreds of other ones? I think it's good to grab views, but I
think conceptually, I've toyed with the topic of making one, and I've toyed with the topic of making a video on the stimulus check update where I mainly just point out the fact that everyone's making stimulus update videos, and no matter what the government does, it only really matters what you're doing to really change things. Obviously, for some people, they need the money, and I understand that. I'm not trying to be insensitive to that, but for a lot of people, it's a matter of like, it's a nice thing if they get it. So I'm like, why are you just, I mean, I know you want to stay informed, but like, why are you feeding into all these people's like algorithms, man? Like just like work extra or find something else to do, because I just feel bad that they don't realize that they're just being, some people really do realize that they're just being used as like, as a view farm for a time. But yeah, view farm, that's a weird word. And I think I made that up. I don't think it's a real word. Not generally one to make up words, but I felt like that was fun.
Can become a thing.
So to close things out, I am curious how the beer thing has affected you. Obviously, we heard a little bit about your work life, but I want to hear about the positives, the negatives, the in-betweens.
Of working from home?
Well, the beer thing, but I don't use the word for the certain, bad thing that people get and they make them feel sick.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
okay.
You're right.
Yeah, things are okay. I definitely get cabin fever from time to time because, you do miss the lifestyle. You do miss the freedom of, just going out carefree. I think everything's okay other than some enragement toward people who just don't care, because the sooner people care a little bit more, the sooner things can go back to normal, right? So
yeah, that's true. I don't know what your thoughts are or what your area's thoughts are on the mask thing or being open. Philadelphia, or not Philadelphia, but I guess the state of Pennsylvania. What political party is their governor? Because that'll give me an answer.
Democratic. I mean,
or is it it's kind of a split state-ish?
Well, I mean, we have people, especially concentrated in the city, like Pittsburgh and Philly, who are definitely more progressive and, things like that. But then you also have people out in the middle of nowhere, rednecks type of thing. It's very different depending on where you are. But
yeah, I know what you mean. There's a map of Illinois regarding like demographics of voters, right? And it's like the city's just blue and everything else is red.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with either one. I'm just making an observation that that's the thing. It seems to always be a thing, where it's like the city's concentrated as one thing. And it's like, I remember a buddy of mine, he didn't really get how, how obviously electoral college works for the presidency. The larger states obviously are going to get more votes. It's similar with how like the voting works for like even that state, then getting the votes to go towards the president. Like it does like it's like a two-stage thing. Obviously the state itself has to figure out how they went, which way they did. And I remember him seeing the map of like Illinois. He's like, but the blue's only in this one spot. I'm like, yeah, buddy, but like there's millions of people in Chicago and there's like 20,000 people here and there or whatever. Yeah.
Precisely. So yeah, people just got to start caring more because we could blow this thing over. I saw a statistic: if people wear masks for just 2 months,
Yep.
everything could be now.
Yeah, 2 months. If that's the case, that's worth it, in my opinion. I'd be done with this. This has been too long.
I mean, it's crazy because this mask thing is becoming a political thing, a civil rights thing, even like.
Well, it's. I saw something that was interesting. It was like it's your right to not wear a mask, but it's also your right to have the repercussions then come from that. So if you want to refuse business for you, like that's the repercussion. Like that's just kind of how things work. You do an action and then there's a reaction. And I'm like, that's pretty accurate. Like I know it's crazy to say that for people who think like, oh, I don't want to wear a mask. I mean, you are. There's got to be more of a middle ground on this in a way. I think there's situations where like people are by themselves and it's like we don't need to wear it in the house. I don't think.
Yeah, of course.
But then there's people who are just like, I don't want to wear it. It is a civil. It's like, oh, it's a rights thing, and I'm like, I don't know. People have been passing away for a little too long. We've been stuck inside for a little too long. If we all just kind of toned up the
Cooperated.
Yeah, cooperated is a good word for it. Because you got to go one way or the other. I feel like, right?
Yeah.
Because there was because Sweden just didn't really care regarding
like the herd immunity thing.
Yeah, and that ended up working, but like we're so far gone from that. Like either we got to go all the way into that, or we got to go into the mask thing. Like this half and half thing is just going to prolong it.
It's all in or all out.
It's all exactly. I don't want to get too crazy political on it, but that was my thoughts on good old wearing the stuff. Do it, it's good. Whatever. Don't censor me, YouTube.
It won't kill you.
I know it's not gonna kill you. It's gonna be fine. I think it's good that you acknowledge that. I think it's good that people in general acknowledge that because we're gonna be in this for a little while if things don't change. I know. Florida, when I'm recording this, had like 13,000 cases in a day.
14,000, 15,000 even. Like,
jeez, like what? That's a lot.
I know.
In one day. They're testing a little bit more, though. Obviously, they're testing a fair amount more. So you see more, right? You do see more.
But that brings the reality of okay, there really are this many people getting it.
Yeah, it's everywhere. But regarding working from home, do you think in the long term you are going to want to, or are you hoping the big four end up doing that, or what specifically you work for does that?
Well, realistically, I am client facing, so this won't work in the long
term. Okay.
However, I really would regardless, I wouldn't want to work from home all the time. Like as a traditional type of business person, I like the social contact. I'm pretty extroverted, so having energy from being in the office means a lot to me personally. And I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I like the idea of getting ready in the morning, going to a certain place, talking to people, socializing, sitting in a room together and discussing things. I think that's pretty important to me. So
yeah, I was talking with my family about this earlier, and sales positions that like do a lot of courting regarding like trying to get like they take people to baseball games or whatever, like wholesalers and stuff. Oh, they can't do this. They can't do this. It's just not going to work.
Not in the long run, no. So there's a lot of perks to actually being in person. I like that and I miss that. So I'm excited to go back when I can.
Yeah, I'm sure we all are. For me, I've been home for a hot minute. I moved back in. What are you still home? Because you did just graduate, right?
Yeah, still home. Saves a lot of costs, so.
Yeah, free rent's nice. Rent's nice. I'm not gonna ever complain about that. Cause, yeah. You ever thought about doing the old duplex thing when you're older?
Of course. I mean, house hacking, that's kind of my goal, real estate to get in there. That's what I'm kind of saving up for the most part now. So. That's
smart. I definitely think that's, when people pitch that online, I don't have a problem with it because that makes sense. That's like a direct correlation thing. Like if you have excess space in your house and you just rent out part of the space, that's not a bad thing. That's not what I'm not trying to say. Like personal finance YouTubers don't ever say anything nice.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely like if you just straight up didn't have mortgage costs forever, then maybe fire is a little more possible. I mean, think about $1,200 plus a month, whatever mortgages are for mattering on the house size could be 2,000.
I mean, it's the most realistic supply and demand. There's always going to be supply in terms of like you're collecting more income, demand. People are always going to want a place to live, especially if you're in like a good city, good location. So can't really go wrong with like the idea of real estate if you approach it the right way.
Yeah, I definitely don't know if I'd ever do anything outside of duplex real estate. I think it's a good concept for people who are into that sort of thing.
So
But
nothing like house flipping or stuff like
no,
that.
I've heard a lot about house flipping being an excessive amount of work, but owning maybe properties would be fine.
Yeah, house flipping can go either way, horribly right or horribly wrong. So
Yeah, and I'm not a real estate broker, obviously. I need to get a license maybe, or know somebody who's very close to me who's good at their job, and then pay them a little nicer than usual because they're my friend, or maybe pay them less. I don't know how that would work. Maybe they give me a discount, probably.
maybe.
Because I think the nice part about probably duplexing is, you have it literally be the person that's like in your house next to you. You can have a handyman that in the neighborhood. Like, you really don't have to deal with as many issues as if you have a property that's like even just like a 20-minute drive. I mean, that's way more of a pain.
Yeah, it's harder to manage when it's that far away. So having it right on site, well, easier to manage.
Yeah, I know people who have managed to even house hack though, with people just straight up in their house, not even in like the other duplex half.
I mean, that's just more of a lifestyle type of choice. Would you really want to have other people living in the same areas as you? Like, what's your privacy threshold, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Because it's a really popular Southern European thing is the three flat concept. I don't know if you've heard of that before.
Interesting. No.
So my family's from like Greece and Italy, and in Greece is a big thing, and even Italy a little bit too. In Greece, it's a big thing for grandparents live on third floor, parents live on second floor, their kids live on the first floor, right? So they never really have to deal with like paying for like a mortgage ever again, because it's just like three generations of like over and over again.
I mean, that's nice in Europe, maybe, where it's more family oriented. But I think over here, everyone wants to kind of live their own life.
Yeah. The concept is the third floor, you never see them. The second floor, you never see them. The first floor, you never see them until dinner if you feel like it. And I just feel like conceptually, some of those boundaries might be more broken than they let on.
Yeah, definitely. Theoretically, it sounds good, but in practice, it'll differ a bit.
It'll differ a whole lot. So if you have anything else to say before we end things, I'd like to give you the floor, because I do notice it is getting mildly dark where you're at. No, it's not a big deal about that. I just noticed. I was like, oh my God. We
literally went from like sunset beyond. So yeah. Nothing much. Just wear your masks, folks.
Wear your masks, folks. You heard it here from KimmyG. I really appreciate having you on the show. And with that being said, we'll see you guys in the next one.